Thank you for listening to this episode, and follow the podcast on social media by finding @Prestigious_pod. And if you'd like to be coached on how to live a more prestigious life, you can reach out to me, Chris Bean, at Chris Bean Official, or by emailing the podcast directly at prestigiousinitiative@gmail.com. Lastly, sign up for our newsletter either through social media or on our website. This is the Prestigious Initiative. Welcome. I'm Chris Bean. Today we're going to be diving into an inspiring story of transformation with Alexandra Dotcheva. From facing cultural challenges and low self-esteem to becoming a successful healthcare professional, investor, and author. Alexandra is here to share actionable insights that help you optimize your health, build your wealth, and unlock your full potential. Alexandra, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Chris, for having me. Thank you so much.
So why would somebody want to listen to our conversation here today?
Well, if you're one of the people like me who gets into midlife crisis very early in life, I was 32 when I experienced my midlife crisis, or if you have really desire to change your life but no confidence that you can do it, I'm the right person to talk to you because I had no confidence for more than 20 years as a musician. And then this had to change when the economic crisis hit in 2008, when I put myself through nursing school. And then 4 years later, I also acquired investments and developed 3 real estate investment businesses. So somebody like me who came from Bulgaria in 2000 to pursue a master's and doctoral in music and then completely changed everything several years later, I can tell you that you can do whatever you want with your life, but you have to, first of all, change some mental habits, and then everything can happen if you really persevere.
And as I hear too, you also had an opportunity to go through some martial arts training on your path as well.
I did karate and Aikido for 12 years, karate for 10 years and Aikido for 2 years. Yes.
Oh, okay. So that speaks to me too, because my profession, my real job outside of the podcasting here is a professional martial arts instructor. I've been training since I was 11, moved from training to now I essentially run a martial arts school. So that is very near and dear to me.
Yes, it helps tremendously with self-esteem and self-confidence, self-respect, resilience, and learning how to treat others in a way that you can convince them to cooperate with you and have a wonderful mutual relationship. Cooperation.
Yeah. And what I found too is a lot of times people go to martial arts for they think they're going to learn how to kick butt or beat people up or whatever, but really what they're getting is they're getting self-confidence, they're getting self-discipline, and those things help in so many areas of their life. And it is really easy to see that and connect to that on when you meet people that have trained in martial arts for so long.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I went because I wanted to be able to be stronger and more resilient. But what it gave me in addition to that was way more valuable over the 12 years. I completely agree.
Yes. Now, so your journey is remarkable. Share a little bit of what led from your career of classical violin to nursing to real estate and ultimately writing a book about self-confidence and holistic success.
Yeah, I was a musician for 29 years by the time I entered the workforce as a nurse. And I did have very serious issues with stage fright. They started in my teenage, in fact, and I couldn't overcome them the way I wanted to. I was, in fact, afraid to understand them to begin with when I was so young. And I compensated for this by practicing 9 to 11 hours a day from a very early age. And it didn't help, though, because what I was able to deliver in the practice room was nowhere near what I delivered on stage. And the dissatisfaction with myself kept piling up, and my teachers, for whatever reason, they couldn't quite help with the stage fright because they knew I was prepared when I was playing the lessons, for them twice a week and everything. So we couldn't quite decipher what happened. Then I had a wonderful opportunity to come to the United States for my master's and doctoral degrees, and I made great progress as a musician, but still was not competitive enough to beat 40 to 500 people on an orchestra audition once orchestras started downsizing and outright bankrupting between 2006 and 2008, and the competition increased because there were that many more hungry musicians on the market. So that's when it became clear I had to do something different. I knew I had missed a lot of knowledge being in a specialized music school from the 1st to the 12th grade. I had no science base, Chris, at all, let alone in English. Okay, so I put myself through the activity of reading the textbooks for nursing school 9 to 11 hours a day before the classes even started. So I read most of the textbooks 2, 3 times from cover to cover, carefully before the classes started, because there were prerequisite classes for nursing school, as I didn't have any science base. And I crushed all the classes. I crushed everything. I'm a straight A student. So 3 years of nursing school, then the nurse for the workforce. So that was very eye-opening with the healthcare system, because I was truly hoping, expecting to enter this temple of health and wonderful healthcare, and to help people to finally feel useful to society for the first time in 30 years. And didn't quite pan out that way, because I saw what the healthcare system does to people, how they use them, as assets once they put you on chronic medication for 10, 20, 30 years to keep you barely functional for as long as you live. And disease reversal was really never a topic in nursing school. And that really disturbed me. Then I saw my colleagues, soon to be colleagues, healthcare professionals, curing every disease known to man, yet teaching the patients how to live healthy. And that's when I made a decision that I'm going to be a different nurse, because I have to serve as 100% example for health to my patients if I want to have any credibility, right? So I changed my diet. I was a half vegetarian for 17 years, but 7 years ago, I ditched the remaining animal products. So I've been a whole food organic vegan for 7 years, daily detox. My boyfriend is the same exact way. And then, of course, the exercise, vigorous fitness exercise. So these are the three basic things with health. But then with the investing, um, I thought I would have a full-time job. I would be very stable financially, and job security was a myth. I saw the burnout. I saw the turnover. And I also resorted to put myself to yet another learning curve, which was finances, which I knew nothing about until I decided to learn about investing.
Okay, so I got quite a few different avenues of approach here. Let's go to your school. So you grew up in a musical school where you focused
Yes,
mainly
music
on
school.
music, and you didn't do much of the science and math, and I'm assuming you did reading because you were able to read the textbooks.
We read, but it was nothing like the regular school. So our math ended in the 8th grade. Biology was from 5th to the 9th grade, and very superficial compared to the other schools in Bulgaria, because everything was focused on music theory, harmony, history of music, and practicing our instruments, because we had to practice many hours a day, where the other kids spent studying or playing all these hours a day. So we were very dedicated to our subject of music, our respective instrument. Sorry if you're hearing the airplanes, but they fly. And everything else was really second priority, if at all. So by the time I was 32, I was really all music and nothing else.
So in Bulgaria, is school year round? Did you go year round? Was that different
Yes,
compared to?
yes.
Okay.
The school in Bulgaria always starts on September 15th, throughout the country, and it goes to June. But when you're in a specialized school, you can be in a specialized music school or the specialized sports school, for example, when they prioritize on their sports practice and sports subjects and everything connected to sports. The regular schools have the full curriculum. They study math, biology, sciences, many more years than we do in the specialized schools. So you're handicapped in a way, because you say, okay, I'm going to dedicate myself to one subject. But then when you grow up, you might find out that that was not exactly the path you were meant to go. And it's a big awakening, and it's very frightening, and it's crushing your confidence, and you hit rock bottom. And then you say, okay, I have to learn so much more, because I've missed so much on knowledge that pretty much everybody else around me has. And that's a big awakening for somebody who has spent a lot of time practicing the same thing over and over.
So do you think that from practicing that same thing over and over like that, that mentality gave you the ability to, like you said, before you went into the nursing school, you were able to, you read the books from cover to cover multiple times. You studied that even before the classes began. Do you think that that kind of mentality began in your music school?
Very much so. The self-discipline and work ethic, it did. The problem was I had to overcome the fear of not being able to master, quote unquote, a profession in 3 or 4 years after I hadn't been able to master my instrument after 30 years of practicing it. This was my problem, personally, as
the mindset changed to make myself believe that I can do something different. I really wanted to, but whether I could or not, that was an entirely different question in my mind. So this was where, when I tell my coaching clients, you absolutely can do it, because if I could, I never believed I would be able to do it. You can, everybody can, but just make up your mind and make the decision, commit, take the responsibility for all the failures that are about to come, because there will be lots of failures along the way. But if you don't give up, you will succeed.
Now, you also talk about disease reversal, which is an interesting phrase and not one that I hear comes up frequently. Can give me a little bit more information about that?
Well, 95% of the chronic diseases are completely reversible, right? With that, exercise and detox, you can do that. But these are not things that are talked about in nursing school very much, because the doctors really don't study nutrition. I had a semester of nutrition in my nursing school program. It was a requirement, and that was the most complicated class I took. I was so surprised. It was harder to understand and memorize and comprehend than pharmacology. It was harder than the pathophysiology of diseases, the med-surgical nursing, than everything, nutrition, because they were talking about the vitamins, minerals, and what they do for your body. And it's scary because information gets renovated, updated periodically every year, twice a year, and you have to be so on top of it, because with what's happening with the food industry, everybody knows the GMOs, the processed foods and everything, and people are so unaware of how much harm these foods cause in their bodies, that they get used to the mentality, okay, so we don't exactly inherit the chronic disease, and it's going to be like this. There's not much you can do, but we have these wonderful medications that we can keep you alive and well and functional for a while. And people get the mindset that, well, if my dad had the type 2 diabetes, I will have the type 2 diabetes. Well, no, you really have the predisposition to manifest that disease, but whether it manifests itself or not, that's under your control 95% of the time. But people don't want to change their habits. They don't understand that they also inherited a lifestyle from their loved ones. And that's really what is under our control to change, to modify, to drastically not follow what our parents and grandparents did if we don't want to manifest their diseases. And that's not talked about in nursing school very much.
Yeah, well, I'm sure probably not in the medical field very much at all. What about, you said detox, daily detox? Bring me through, what does that look like?
It can look in many different ways, whether you want to do it orally or through some other route. It's up to you, but there are foods that are great to detox. There is also types of colon cleansings, liver cleansings that you can do. All right. And it's really, if you commit to do it daily, knowing that you're exposed to between 2,000 and 20,000, and 2 million toxins daily, roughly. Okay. So to me, it only makes sense to do it daily. Then you have to find the economical ways to do it inexpensively, because it's not like you're going to a spa once a week and then they offer you some expensive detox package. Nobody can afford that. I mean, very few people can, but there are so much easier ways to prepare a detox mixture and either drink it, or you can do an enema, depending what you want to cleanse and how you want to go about it. I'm all about helping the body recover and reproduce and produce more of its own resources. Say the liver produces glutathione, right? This is this powerful antioxidant molecule that kills free radicals, takes them out of the body. Well, glutathione decreases with age. So some people take it orally, which I'm against, because when you go through the gastrointestinal tract, it digests the glutathione and it decreases its potency by 50%. It really is not the same as giving it directly to your liver, so that the liver can, not a glutathione, but the chemical means to produce more glutathione, so your liver can actually increase its function and recover itself and it rebuilds itself, because the liver is one of those organs that it renovates itself completely over the course of, it used to be 2.5 years, so a century ago, but now it takes about 3.5 years to replace your liver with a completely new liver, because of the environmental pollution and toxins around the contamination with everything. So it's a commitment, just like the diet and the exercise detox.
Yeah, well, I can imagine that, especially as somebody was starting this type of procedure, your body would not know what's going on, kind of sort of say, in the beginning, because it has to kind of, instead of relying on outside sources to do this stuff for it, it has to do it itself, which means that it's going to be, certainly it would get worse before it would get better, at least in the immediate function, because your body isn't used to doing that on its own.
If you're sick, yes. If you're healthy, you will feel the benefit right away with the increased energy, and you see how you handle. You don't feel like napping in the middle of the day anymore. And in the fitness gym, you can perform much more strongly, many more reps, many more sets. And it's truly a remarkable transformation. But diet goes hand in hand with detox. It's one is not a substitute for the other. If you're detoxing every day, it doesn't give you an excuse for eating unhealthy food. Okay, and eating the healthy food, organic whole food that comes from organic soil is great, but if you're not growing it yourself, you cannot be 100% sure what's in it still, even though it has the organic label and you have found the farmer's market that you trust. Okay, you still need to detox so that you can take care of things on the outside of your body and the inside of your body properly.
Okay, so let's move to your book here. You wrote, "It is really simple, a holistic approach to self-confidence." It's packed with strategies. What is one takeaway that you hope that readers would implement immediately after reading your book?
So the system I use in the 5 aspects of my life, which is my health, spirituality, my career, finances, and relationships, is the same exact principle. I sat down at some point and I figured what I was missing in these 5 aspects. And I had to be very honest with myself, and that's the hardest thing, to have integrity, to recognize your own, what's missing in your life, why it's missing, and to name the real problems without beating around the bush. And the system is you figure out what's missing, what you want, and what is standing in the way of having what you want in all these 5 aspects. So then you have to do some very serious house cleaning in all 5 aspects, in your health, spirituality, career, finances, and relationships. You get rid of things that are in the way for you to have the things that you want to have in all these 5 aspects. And then all this room is clear. Then you can build in a clear space, starting from scratch if you have to. And I had to, in some of these aspects, I had to start from scratch because there was a lot of self-examination and analyzing why I was where I was at age 32, financially broke, not satisfied professionally. My health was okay, but I knew that was because I was young and strong, and that wouldn't continue unless I changed several things radically. And then you start building all these 5 aspects the way you want them. You're in control, and that's already a lifetime project because you constantly work on every one of these aspects of life. And this is how you become holistically confident. At least my experience shows that this system really, really works very well. Because I wrote the book because people started asking me questions. How did you go from where you were to where you are right now? That's just crazy. How did you do that? And then I asked myself, what would have been the book that I would have loved to be able to read 15 years ago? And the whole structure of the book immediately came in my head, and I wrote it in a matter of 6 months. It wasn't hard to write the book. It was just, what did I actually do that worked so well in all these very specific life aspects that are so connected? And people tend to neglect one or the other because they focus on something that's really not the real problem because they're afraid to face the real problem. And the purpose of the book is to help readers not be so afraid to face their real problems because everything is solvable.
Interesting. So you have a background in school that is largely based in musicality and balance and rhythm and all of those type of things. How to be the best instrument player as you can. Then you moved, and then were studying nursing, and then writing your book. How does somebody that has that as the background come to be able to write a book and present that to people that's so helpful for them?
Well, I've always been an avid reader. So I know how to express myself. Now I'm a foreigner, so I had to make sure that in a 400-page book, I avoided repetitions. I did lots of editions of the book before I presented it to a professional editor, right? So you hold yourself accountable with everything that you do. And if you want to approach readers, you have to be blunt and honest because I didn't want it to be another sugar-coated self-improvement book. But at the same time, you don't want to alienate the reader completely. And how you come to writing the book, it comes through the experience, because if you know how you can teach somebody to be healthy, if you know how you can teach somebody to do fitness or martial arts, or if, with experience with investing with the 3 real estate investment businesses, I can teach people how to invest in tangible assets that provide cash flow regardless of their jobs. So if you can teach these things, you can write about them. And plus, writing a book changes your personality entirely, because you really think how you want to present to somebody who is in real need of help within any of these areas, to achieve the holistic confidence and holistic self-esteem and truly gain control over their lives for the first time, like I did over the course of 10 years. It's a very rewarding thing to do. And it's not hard to do if you have a clear idea in your mind how you did it in the first place. Because you're not trying to invent a wheel, or you just tell them your own way how you did it. Because when I was struggling with confidence, I read books that helped me improve my confidence from people who had suffered through much more than I had suffered through. So their experience helped me. It was invaluable to read several of these books. So I said, I can contribute with a book, because my approach is slightly different. When people say holistic, they really think health, but holistic is much more than health when it comes to being confident. Because how many people do you know that work themselves to the bone? They can't take care of their health, and their finances are not really in their control. So they cannot be holistically confident, even though they may be great at their careers. But just having a job won't make you rich or wealthy. Much more you need to learn about finances to see the benefit of your job, to grow these assets. And then having the sources and the choices to work or not to work, you can take better care of yourself with your health, and spend more time with people that whose presence you value in your life more. And it's all so intricately connected. Yet it's really, really simple. Like the book says, it really is simple.
So, okay, you talked about the kind of the definition of holistic. What would be a good working definition of holistic?
You're in full control of your health. You take no pharmaceutical medications. You're in full control of your finances, meaning you have cash flowing assets that you can live on reliably, whether or not you have a career. You choose to work or not to work. You work because you want to work and be useful to society and learn marketable skills to stay constantly updated. Yet, if you don't want to work, you don't have to work. That's what really brings pleasure from the job, because you are developing yourself and helping people, but you're not feeling that somebody's stepping on you to make you work to pay your bills. Your relationship choices are prioritized to fit the other 3 things that we discussed. So you're not wasting any time with relationships that go nowheres. You have the freedom to choose your relationships. And then spiritually wise, you clear your mind and you nourish your mind through meditation and inspiration to keep going and to overcome all the problems that the goals and ambitions and dreams that you put in front of yourself inevitably put in front of you. That's holistic to me.
Very good. Well, thank you for that. You mentioned struggling with self-imposed limitations and having a sense of victim mentality. What were some first steps that you took to break free from that mindset?
Well, when the career change really helped, because when I entered the world of sick people as a nursing student, I had to put my ego aside for the first time. Because when you're a musician, you read a lot of, I was reading books about people suffering, and so the music and the artists, how they reflect the suffering of the world. But truthfully, I didn't have much idea of the real world, Chris, as a musician. So when I entered nursing school and I saw real suffering, okay, patients and families, my ego had to go to the trash for a little while, and I had to focus on the needs of others. And this is what really helped me change the victim mentality. And the other thing was martial arts, because I was doing very intensely martial arts throughout all these years. And they teach you how to really, the perseverance aspect, and pain is a great teacher. You get beat up, kicked up, and learn how to take punches, physical punches. And then you apply that mindset of the perseverance to the real dojo, which is called life. And as far as the victim mentality, in martial art, we learned a lot about that, because there were people who were trying to escape certain responsibilities during the tests. And my teachers were old school, and there was no, wiggling around certain requirements. And people tried to do that, and we saw the consequences when somebody keeps their promise that there will be consequences. That was great to see. And I saw many people taking responsibility over their skills and learning and progressing amazingly well. So that was also inspiring to overcome the victim mentality. And I also encountered a lot of victim mentality around me, which really irritated me. And I understood, well, that was me a year ago, 2 years ago. Let's not do this again. Let's work on that. And it took a lot of mental work and practice to overcome victim mentality. I honestly can say it took me 5 years.
Now, changing your mindset, I think I found is probably one of the most challenging things that we can do, because that mindset that we have is informing us consistently throughout. Like that is our subconscious. And until we can pull those things from the subconscious into the conscious, we can't do anything with those. Like those mindsets are ingrained from us from such a young age. So what would be some steps you can do to try to find those mindsets, like to not just to see them and to experience them, but to actually know that, yep, this is where I am. This is why I'm feeling this. And then that would be the process of pulling that from the subconscious to the conscious so you can actually do something about it.
You have to search your past a little bit, because in my case, a lot of it was self-imposed. I made myself believe that I was not going to be able to perform well. And I had a lot of attention seeking moments when I was a teenager, and that didn't help me at all. But you start believing in your low confidence the more you reinforce it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you track it down years and years and years, you can see where it started. And then you can work with that. Say, okay, so this was imposed by my friends and peers and parents, but this part was what I did. So let's undo what I did and see what happens with what everybody else did to me. So you first start with the limitations that you imposed on yourself, because we all do that at some point or another. But some of these limitations we forget about because we thought about them when we were much younger, but somehow also they stuck in our minds and they manifest in our actions throughout the years. If you can remember these moments, and it wasn't hard for me because I reinforced my low self-esteem for so many years that I knew exactly the thought pattern that I was going through, and I had to really ditch that pattern because the second I understood it, I had believed it. I decided that I was going to unbelieve it and unlearn it completely. But because it had been self-imposed for over 2 decades, it took 5 years to reverse. So you have to have realistic expectations. If you have been succumbing to bad thoughts about yourself for many years, you won't be able to reverse this overnight. Okay, it's going to take work, it's going to take time. And the more you try to work on it, the more you will at first see reinforcement how bad it really is. And it can be very discouraging at first. But again, if you continue, if you just convince yourself that, okay, I'm done with this type of mindset, we're going to do something new. And every day you remind yourself that you're committed now to think differently, to live differently, and change your thought process. Eventually, gradually, you will succeed. But just don't give up. Don't stop, because once you're on the track, you already know how much it sucks to try to reverse that thing. Already you know it, so you just keep going so you can get past that initial worst stage, the first couple of years where you're trying to change your mindset. The problem with many of the self-improvement books is that they convince you that it's really easy to do. I mean, the idea is very simple, but that doesn't mean it's easy to do. So it takes work. But that's okay, because you're doing something really, really valuable for yourself for the first time in so many years. So that was my inspiration. But again, it's not an easy process.
Okay.
Victim mentality.
So that is what I can do after I figure out that I have some sort of predisposed mindset that is allowing me to not move past those limitations. Now, the prerequisite to that question is, how do I recognize that I have some pre-imposed limitations that are preventing me from making that next step to go through the process of finding them and then getting rid of them?
Because you're afraid to implement the goals, to start working towards the goals or share these goals with others that you really want to achieve, your dreams, you're either embarrassed to share them, you're even embarrassed to write your goals down. The way I knew that was when one of the books said you need to written goals, measurable goals, and deadlines. This was the hardest thing for me because I found out I really didn't believe that I could accomplish these goals much as I wanted to. So I started writing it on paper, and it looks like absurd to connect these goals and dreams to my current personality. That's how you know that you have this problem. Okay. And sometimes we put goals just for the sake of putting goals that are not necessarily our goals. And our goals usually are the true goals that we want are even more ambitious than the goals that we put that would satisfy our friends and parents and loved ones. So we have to also learn to distinguish between that, because the first goals I wrote were always with somebody else in mind. Are they going to approve that? What are they going to say? And it's again a subconscious process, just like you said. But if you distinguish, am I writing these goals to please others, or are these goals really something that I want? And when the answer is no, which is inevitably it's not something that you want, you're writing the first goal because somebody else is going to approve them or disapprove them. You have to get rid of that limitation. That's another limitation. Okay. And that's the boundary between your self-imposed and imposed limitations by others. Then you find your true goals and dreams, and they are even more frightening. They seem more remote than what somebody else would expect from you to do or not to do. But then it becomes very exciting because, oh, I really want that, but it seems so hard, so hard. And you say, okay, so why not? Why not? I don't have to share this with anybody. It's not their business. It's my goal. I can give you an example with my fitness practice, because after I moved from the martial arts to the fitness field, we had done lots of things in karate and aikido, but not pull-ups. And pull-ups were embarrassing because I couldn't do more than two. And I said, what if I can do 100? And somebody said, why 100? You can talk about to two. I said, but because that's a crazy goal and I want it. And it took me 19 months to accomplish 102 pull-ups with my own weight, full range of motion. I worked every day on pull-ups and I did it. Okay. But at first it seemed crazy. I really wanted 100. I like these big fat numbers. And I decided I was going to do it whatever it took. And I accomplished it in 19 months. So once you get through a barrier like that, you know you can get through many more barriers. That's just a very simple example. Pull-ups was a big deal for me. To the present day, I'm going to be 49 in 2 months. I do 80 to 100 pull-ups in the gym session. Same with my dips and other things, okay? But the pull-ups was the big mental barrier. Why can't I do that? They're very hard. And my boyfriend told me, listen, this is a compound exercise. If you really persevere to learn to do it very well, you will build the strength and you will build the numbers and the repetitions and the sets. And I believed it. But it was also my expectation of myself that if I wanted to see that I had a crazy goal, I could accomplish it. And it worked marvelous because it was one of those things that you have the barrier and you overcome the barrier and say, oh, I can do 100 pull-ups now. 19 months ago, I was barely able to do two, if that. So that's how you can overcome lots of things, but you need to really want to do it, to be dead set on doing it, because if you're not, they call it the ironclad desire, right? The burning desire, the ironclad desire. That's the only thing that can contradict, that can overcome a mindset that has been solidified for over 20 years. That's a poor mindset, poor mentality, and victim mentality. Your desire has to be as strong as your previous limitations, and then it has to become stronger than them to really. It's like any fight, any physical fight. A stronger opponent, mentally and physically, will prevail, and our mindsets are no different.
So, okay, so there's interesting things there. You talk about the goals, and goals are really, really kind of interesting to me, because I think that a lot of times a lot of people have goals, but they're not defined enough in their head where they can actually achieve those goals. And I think that probably, in my experience, the reason that is because often we follow the SMART goal setting method, the specific, measurable, attainable, time specific, all that acronym. And I think that acronym is flawed in a couple areas. Number one is it doesn't take you into account. So the goals that you're setting, the goals that you're writing down are goals, but it's what you think other people, it's what you think you should want based on what other people have. They're societal norms. Like that guy over there has a really cool car. Maybe I want that. Yeah. Oh man, wow, that's a cool job. I want that job. And you see these things and you want them because that's what other people have. So you have societal pressure that is informing on your goals. And I think that is systematically incorrect. And then, of course, we're not achieving those goals because they're not actually ours. You have no concrete why. You have no purpose, no drive to actually go and do those things because the why isn't there. The why is it's so important, so important.
Very
Nietzsche says that you can bear any how if you have a strong enough why. If you have that why, and it is so important for you to have that why. Why do you want this? Why? And then if you have that and that's strong enough, then you can do any of the work necessary to achieve that goal that you want. And the other thing that I think that really hurts people is the A part of the SMART goal system, which is attainable. If you're setting a goal that is attainable, something that is easy for you, something that is already within your grasp, you're not stretching yourself. You're not moving outside of your comfort zone. And if you stay inside your comfort zone, no growth happens. None. So you're stunted right at that. So by striving to reach from 2 pull-ups to 100 pull-ups, you made that something that was almost unattainable. You're at 2 now. How do you get that to 100, right? That is something that's almost unattainable. And you had a strong enough why, a purpose to do it. It was specific to you. You valued that. And then you went out and did the work in order to achieve that thing because it was enough outside of your comfort zone that you had to grow. And now, even though that was however long ago, you say you can still do that work because you put the work in, the time and effort and energy, and found the purpose in doing that exercise.
Yes. So the attainable goals, I think it's very helpful to see them as stepping stones to the crazy goal. Okay.
Mm.
Because attainable goals, many people, if they haven't had goals for years, they don't know what's attainable for them and what's not attainable. We lose track of our own abilities because we're crushed by societal norms, just like you said. But if you have a very, very exciting goal, you just realize that between you and that exciting goal, there are lots of other smaller goals, the attainable goals. So you start by one attainable goal to the other. And then when you accomplish 100 attainable goals, you reach your final dream. And then suddenly you have many other more ambitious goals and dreams because you saw what you are capable of doing. It's a mistake when, just like you say, the attainable goal, I believe the mistake happens when people think that's the destination is the attainable goal. Whereas the attainable goal, I have learned to view it as a stepping stone, because if I have a very exciting goal that I'm not quite sure that I can accomplish, but I really want to, then I fill the gap with attainable steps, which every achievement is that. It's just the simple things that you have to do by the time you accomplish the more complex thing. But many people don't have the patience for that. And that's why they say dream big, because you need to have a larger picture of your life for the next 5, 10, or 15 years, where you want to be. And that concept is still intimidating to many, many people. Well, I don't know what I'm going to do tomorrow, let alone in 15 years, and it's just because it's a different level of responsibility with your self-development and self-teaching and learning. And the 15-year responsibility is frightening to some. The 10-year responsibility is frightening to some. It was frightening to me because my investing coach said, where do you want to be 10 years from now? I'm like, well, 10 years from now? It took forever to figure out where I wanted to be 10 years from now. And that was because of the disbelief in my abilities. And again, it all boils down to how your mindset is and how you want to push yourself to see how far you can go to reach is to get closer to your full potential. None of us operates at full potential, but if we can get closer and closer and closer every day, that's great.
Okay, so speaking of investment, you have invested in real estate and options tradings. What advice would you offer to somebody who is looking to take control of their financial future, whether that be 5, 10, or 15 years from now?
Yeah, well, with my clients, I spent 2 weeks on finances. Actually, it's a very extensive chunk of the coaching program. Well, first of all, you need to be responsible with money, right? In order to have money to invest, you need to learn how to keep the money that you're making. And saving money is easy. I can teach a monkey how to save money. Now, investing requires financial education. So you need to first invest in yourself, meaning in your knowledge. You have to study asset classes, see what best fits your goals. But again, it comes to where you want to be 10 or 15 years from now, because there are more aggressive investment strategies and less aggressive investment strategies. Some people have higher risk tolerance, other people have low risk tolerance. Risk tolerance can also be enhanced with experience. with small mistakes at first, some small successes, then bigger success and smaller mistakes, hopefully. But it's all about how you structure your investing. And it is a lifelong commitment because economics change, markets change. You can't control certain markets, but you can control yourself and your habits. And it's truthfully a great game at first, the first 5 years, to keep your expenses really, really manageable and low while you expand your means. And by the time you become more experienced and your income surpasses your tangible asset income surpasses your monthly expenses 9 or 10 times, then you can say, oh, I don't have to work anymore, or I can work because I want to work. But it is a long-term strategy. It's not a getting rich quick scheme. It's nothing like a lottery ticket. It's responsibility. It's discipline. The discipline aspect, I just cannot emphasize enough in investing. So that's what I help people develop. That's our biggest challenge with clients.
And of course, discipline is at the heart of that, because as their money, as their wealth is growing, they are exposed to new things that they now want, and now they have the financial means to achieve those things. And so remaining disciplined in that approach, because otherwise, if you lack the discipline in keeping track of your money and managing your money, then as more money, whatever you do, more money comes in. Okay, well, more money is going to flow out because you lack the discipline to hold on to it. But if you can hold on to it, if you know the dollars and cents and where your account is at pretty well any given time, then you start to measure those things. And if we know what gets measured gets managed, then of course, as you're measuring those things, then you're going to be more mindful about how you approach the spending habits. And the spending habits with coupled with the discipline really most of the time is the crutch of where that starts to fall apart at.
Exactly. And I tell them, if you lived perfectly fine without that luxurious item before, you really don't have to buy it now, because now you're growing and you need to persevere through the growth process. And financial freedom is about you being able to make choices whether you have to earn your income on or rely on cash flow from tangible assets. And you have to use that income to expand your assets the first 10 years if you want to truly be in control. The discipline part is the biggest challenge, and it starts from the very beginning, because people have, many of my clients, they never saved any money more than $1,000, $2,000. Said, oh, we really need to change that. So then we have to go through their financial statement, see where the money is really going after each paycheck. And it's a lot of confidence in the coach to do that, and a lot of discretion on my part. But that's how I learned with my coach, because I had to present a financial statement. Here's where the money is going. And my coach taught me another invaluable thing, which I also apply in my teaching, is where is your time going when you're not working? What are you doing with your free time? Because that's the biggest asset. The most valuable asset is your time, right? So you have to account for your time, and then you have to account where's the money going once you get the paycheck. Is it going to real necessities, or are you spending it on things that you really don't need to spend it right now if you truly want to have some capital to invest? And it's a big mental game there too.
Yeah,
the same exact thing with eating unhealthy food, doing unhealthy habits. Is the same exact mindset with the finances, Chris.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah.
And of course, as people are moving through life, they reach that financial crisis. Oftentimes, there's a midlife crisis that is right there coupled with that. And we know how common those are. You see those midlife crises as opportunities. So I guess my question is, what mindset shifts would you recommend for somebody who is experiencing that kind of crossroads in life right now?
Just understand that if you're willing to get out of a situation that is not satisfying to you, but you're really not confident in your abilities that you can get out of that situation, ask yourself if you're treating this bad situation as the only comfort zone that you've ever known, because you have become comfortable with your bad situation. Make it uncomfortable for yourself, truly uncomfortable, not just at the complaint level, but truthfully at your value level, at your personal values and professional value level. Why do I want to get rid of the situation, and how can I make things better? Because your abilities are so much stronger and so much more than you can even begin to imagine. And again, I'm speaking here from experience, because I was one of those people who all I care about was practice violin. I was so shielded from everything else, Chris, that I resented learning computer programs. I resented learning everything that was not connected with me practicing the violin, and I tremendously limited myself. So if I could get out of that shell, anybody else can. If you get really tired of your habits and of your way of living and truthfully decide to aspire to something different, because ask yourself, are you going to regret 30 years from now that you didn't give it a shot now? That was the strongest motivation for me to put myself to nursing school, because I knew I had the brain to study. I wasn't exactly sure I wanted to spend another so many years in college after 11 years in college. But that was my dilemma. And I said, but am I going to regret 30 years from now if I don't give it a try now? And the answer was every time, yes, I'm going to regret very, very much. And that's what propelled me to change my life. And everybody's able to do that. Put it in their own words that resonates with their own personality. There are many ways to say that. Find a way that convinces you to truthfully give it yourself a try, because you deserve. If you decide that you deserve, you 100% deserve to live a better life.
Now, one of the other things you spoke on, as far as the holistic definition was spirituality. So, how has spirituality played a role in your journey, and what can others do to integrate the spirituality into their daily lives to reach that balance that everybody is looking for?
Yeah, there are lots of aspects to spirituality. So first, because my mind was so busy thinking all sorts of petty, horrible, and unnecessary thoughts, I had to learn to meditate really well to clear my mind. So that was the mind detox in parallel to the body detox. So mind detox, meditation, and then nourishment of the mind, which is the diet, which is the inspiration for the mind. And then you have a fitness program for the mind, which is called lifelong learning. These are, to me, all three parts of spirituality. But your whole spiritual experience has to come with maintaining your ethical standards and your human standards and values through your challenges, because the challenges are not only about the hard work and the hours that you spend and analyze yourself and everything around you, but there are going to be tempting situations for you to overstep over your values, to do something that is not exactly ethical for the sake of some type of gain, short-term gain. And these are situations that you want to resist if you have strong values and ethical principles, and you need to be patient with that, because the quick gains are not always useful in the long term, and you may have regrets later. So that's what I have been very careful, very, very careful sustaining that standard of ethics that I have always had, because you inherit something from your loved ones, your parents, that it has to stay with you as far as values, even they may have been wrong in many other ways advising you, but your core ethical human values have to stay intact if you want to be happy with your progress over the long term. So this is important in spirituality and in healthcare. Many opportunities to give up your integrity, and finances, many opportunities to give up your integrity, and you have to hold yourself accountable. Because, like I said, later in life you can say, "I really wish I did something different," and it's just not worth having these regrets, in my opinion. Mistakes are one thing, but conscious, unethical decisions for a quick gain are entirely different thing. You know exactly what you're doing. So if you know that it's wrong, don't venture into that and risk having these pretty unpleasant regrets later.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
spirituality.
meditation is something that comes up frequently on the show here. I always like to ask, what what is your practice that you go through for meditation?
I use dynamic meditation. So I really very carefully analyze my goals and my expectations of myself when I'm in the alpha level of brainwave. So I slow the brainwave activity. It's like, almost like when you're between awakened and asleep, but the alpha waves for the brain, you slow your brain activity down to 7 to 14 vibrations per second. That I learned this through the Silva mind control method. I really love this method very much. And it helps with problem solutions. It has tremendously increased my memory. So I spend 15 minutes 3 times a day to meditate. I find that time and I meditate, and I'm at the point now where I don't care what noises are around me, I can meditate. I can even meditate with my eyes open if I have to. But you can resort to this method not only deliberately 15 minutes every day, but if you have to, um, instantly clear your mind from some thoughts that are impeding with the activity you're doing right now. You can take 5 seconds and clear the mind and refocus on your activity. So that comes with practice as well. Okay, meditation is fascinating. It can improve your memory tenfold. It can teach you how to solve problems very quickly, and also how to grow expectancy in the goals that seem impossible to achieve with consistent feeding your mind during your meditation, that this is how you're going to do it, because in that way your mind offers you solutions, offers you ideas, experimental ideas or not so experimental ideas, but it becomes very creative and very resourceful through meditation. And then the rest of your day, when you're awake and actively doing your stuff, you're surprised at how many solutions you actually find. And it's a fascinating thing what happens to the mind if you learn to meditate on a regular basis.
Okay, so the Silva mind control method, I've certainly heard of that before, and they talk about reaching the alpha state, and I think the prescribed method to at least to start with is to count backwards from 100,
Yeah.
as you're sitting and you're breathing as you go, and then once you get back down to 100, then or from 100, then you are in that alpha brainwave state, and once you do that after a number of times, and you can learn how to do that much faster.
Yes,
Am I right on
exactly.
that?
Yes, you are. If you go to a class, they teach you in 4 days. It's amazing. But if you're doing with the book or with their online classes, you just count it to one for like 4 weeks or so, and then you go 50 to one to 25 to one, 15 to one, and you reach the ability to do from 5 to 1 eventually. It takes about 5 seconds to reach an alpha level. If you're really good at it, it's not hard to do. The alpha level is easy. What's the challenge is what you do once you're in alpha, how you structure your thought process, and how you review your goals and your dreams and everything that you want to do, or the problem you have to solve at hand, or a health issue, or a financial issue, or relationship issue. It's how you structure your meditation is what really matters. Getting into alpha state is not hard at all to accomplish, and it's really helped. It really helped. The method is just beautiful. I love the book. It's written so genuinely and so matter of factly, and it's just so accessible. It's one of the best things I've found on meditation. I've read lots of meditation books, but it's a great method. I recommend it. Of course, it's not the only method. So long as you do something that you stick with, you're good.
Hmm. Yeah, so I've tried meditation for a number of different times and different approaches. I have touched the Silva method a handful of times. I don't know that I've done it enough to say that I've done it. Um, my the issue that I have with meditation is oftentimes I will start the process, and then by the time I get to the point where I think I'm doing good, I'm falling asleep, or next thing I know, I'm waking up from asleep,
Drowsiness.
which I guess is good because then I can relax that much. But I don't know that I'm getting what I would like to be getting from meditation if I'm just sleeping.
Yeah, so there are two challenges with meditation: the roaming thought process that we have to control, and then the drowsiness that occurs once we're truly relaxed. So with practice, you learn to get by all both of these challenges. I've described this in chapter 8 on spirituality in my book. Drowsiness is a challenge in the first 3 or 4 months, but eventually you learn how to pull yourself out of it. It's also mind control,
Hmm.
right? So you always try to get adequate sleep every day, of course. But meditation, when you relax really well, yes, drowsiness can be a serious, impediment sometimes. But it's again a matter of self-discipline to learn to pull yourself out of it and not fall into the temptation of falling asleep when you shouldn't be falling asleep.
Hmm.
Because say that you're meditating in the middle of a workday when you want to recuperate your mind and truly break the day in two with a 15-minute meditation, you can't just fall asleep in your office, right? So but if you're in your house, it's less tempting to be disciplined. But it's how strong do you want to learn to meditate really effectively? It falls down again. How strong do you want to learn to do it well and with self control? Everything involves self control, like in martial arts.
Hmm.
Meditation is no different.
Yeah, I think what I need to do is just find a method, choose it, and then just continue it for a good length of time. Because I think I've done different methods about every day for a month, but I don't know that that's enough to say that I really dove into that method enough to say that, yep, I did it. and it didn't work for me. Now I'm ready to move to the next one. So maybe I've heard great things about the Silva mind control method. A number of people talk about that, and I know enough about it to speak a kind of coherently about it. So maybe that'll be the method that I choose and do for a length of time. Thank you.
It's great. I hope you do it. It's really, really good.
So Alexandra, I gotta say, your story is inspiring. Your insights are incredibly valuable. Thank you for sharing your journey and tips with us today. And before we are wrapping up here, what would be some final key takeaways you would like to leave the listeners with, and then perhaps maybe the best avenue of approach if they would like to get in contact with you?
So a takeaway, face your situation. Face your situation, address the real problem in your life. Don't beat around the bush. You know what your true problems are. Don't invent superficial problems to mask the real issue that you're struggling with, whether it's in your health, your spirituality, your career, your finances, or your relationships, or maybe all of the above, most likely. Okay. It's okay, because once you understand that you can do better, you most definitely can do better. We don't have an excuse once we understand that we can do better. Don't use the uniqueness of your situation as a excuse, for not taking action on your goals or accomplishing your dream. Everybody's situation is unique, but that is not a permission for excuses for not taking action. And if you allow that thought, just this you take home from today, this conversation, I think you can accomplish way more than you think that you can. Because, and I tell this in the book, people all the time, if I could do it, anybody can, and so can you. So trust yourself and your abilities, and it's a great thing that you can accomplish with your life.
And if they wanted to get in contact with you, what would be the best way for them to do that?
I have a website. It's called holisticselfconfidence.com. The book is available on the website, and there is a blog. There is a way to reach me through email if they want a coaching session. But holisticselfconfidence.com is a great starting point to get in touch with me.
Wonderful. Listeners, I want to make sure, of course, you check out Alexandra's book. It really is simple. And, start embracing those holistic success in your own life. Until next time, remember, every day is a chance to grow and become your best self. Take initiative.